But we're going to finish, we're not going to finish, we're in the last chapter of Acts, chapter 28. We're going to finish it up here next week, or the following week at the latest. Today we're going to take some time to work or look at the weird beliefs that some people have. And sometimes it's very easy to say, oh, that's a weird belief that they have way over there, or that's a weird belief that they had way back then. And yet what it should do is it should make us think, why do we believe what we believe today? I'm not talking faith-wise, I'm talking out in this world in kind of the day-to-day pragmatic things. And so we're going to look at some of that today as we continue through the book of Acts. So go ahead and grab your Pew Bible and your bulletin. And the verses there are in the bulletin. We've been talking a lot about this, so you know what's happening. If you don't, then you can go back and read it for yourself. You can look at the sermons from the last several weeks. But here they are continually through this storm, and now chapter 28 gets right into picking up where they are. And so after we were brought safely through the storm, we then learned that the island was called Malta. All right, so they've gone through the storm, they've gone through all this chaos that's been going on, and they finally get to land, and they're going to say, okay, we're on land, let's just stay here, okay? We're on dry ground, I'm going to fall to my knees, and I'm going to thank God that we're here, just like God promised that everybody's going to be brought through, and they do. They're like, okay, we found dry land. Where are we? Malta, okay. I didn't give you a map this week for Malta. No, okay. Malta is a relatively small island on the southern coast of Italy. There it is, right below a little Sicily there. And so Sicily and Crete were much more known as trading posts and places that people would go. Malta is relatively insignificant at that time anyways. But they're there. That's where they are now, okay? So you see that the red line is exactly the journey that it's going to take. But they're at Malta. Thank you, Dean and Joni, for that. Verse 2, the native people showed us unusual kindness, for they kindled a fire and welcomed us all, because it had begun to rain and was cold. When Paul had gathered a bundle of sticks and put them on the fire, a viper came out because of the heat and fastened on his hand. He cannot catch a break. He cannot get a break. Maybe you've had times in your life where it's just one thing after another, maybe for a week, maybe a month, maybe health issues, maybe family stuff, financial, maybe it's just kind of everything. I mean, you got political divide, then we have COVID, then we have riots, then we have extreme heat. Maybe that's even something you're looking at. But here Paul is at, all right, so 14 days at sea, they're lost. They finally get to dry land, but they're not dry because it starts to rain. And so he finally, he's just got to be exhausted at this point. I'm going to go get some sticks, throw them on the fire. As soon as that happens, a snake comes out and bites him. Why? Right? Why, God? Why? And that's what we're talking about today. Trials. And how God's ways are not your ways, and they're not my ways. The viper came out because of the heat fastened on his hand. When the native people saw the creature hanging from his hand, they said to one another, no doubt this man is a murderer. Though he has escaped the sea, justice has not allowed him to live. They had a belief on the island of Malta that because there were shipwrecks and things would happen, and so even if you escaped the sea, somehow the world, the forces of nature, what we might even call something like karma, will get you. Right? So even though they made it out of the sea, oh, they must be okay. Nope, bam, viper hits them. Clearly the snake has always been a sign of something evil and wicked in judgment. And he gets bit, and they're thinking, well, he made it out of the water, but he's dead. So let's just kind of watch and see what happens to him. That's what they're doing. All right, sometimes we just sit back and we read our Bibles and we think it's just these holy guys sitting up in these ivory towers just philosophizing. And what it is it's shipwrecks. It's talking to a person on a boat. It's going through that difficulty. It's being so exhausted in the middle of the storm, you get to land, and Paul doesn't stand up and start preaching at everybody. What does he do? He goes and gathers sticks so we can sit around a fire and maybe get just a little bit warm from what we've been through for the last 14 days. And he's trying to do that. You can imagine how exhausted he must have been. and then he gets bit. And all the people are looking at him and saying, watch. They didn't have TV back then. They didn't have, the NFL. They didn't, all right, hey, everybody watch. This guy just got bit. He's going to fall down and collapse and die right in front of us. Let's all get our popcorn and watch. That's essentially what they're doing. The people on Malta were considered barbarians. They were considered heathens. Because they were not Greek, they were not Roman, they did not speak those, they were not part of that culture, and they had some of their own strange beliefs like this, that a snake would get you if you were a murderer. And clearly, because the snake got him, Paul must have been a murderer. See how the weird beliefs are coming in here? And you're thinking, well, I would never think like that. That must just be from 2,000 years ago on the island of Malta. I want to give you a couple of things that have happened in the last couple hundred years. Some of them are still happening today. When trains, locomotive trains were starting out in Europe and then in America, they started off back in the late 1500s. They were used for coal mines mainly, and just the one-hand cranks and you would go down the tracks. When they started to build them, and they started to go 20 miles an hour, people were afraid that their human body could not take going 20 miles an hour. When it got to 30 and they didn't die, they said you cannot be on a train for X amount of hours because you will literally go mad. 30 miles an hour. This was a couple hundred years ago. Let's talk about some religious things. The Catholic Church. The Catholic Church for 2,000 years has had so much power and influence in many parts of Europe and throughout the world. So much so that popes and cardinals could sit on their thrones and they could say, this person, for whatever reason, is now damned. They are excommunicated and they are outside of the will of God. Therefore, I have power. If I'm the pope or I'm a cardinal or I have that much influence, I can keep you out of heaven. I can also let you back in if you make me happy by giving me money, power, influence, and things like that. And how many hundreds of years and people just bow down to that type of corruption and wickedness. Got another one here. Where is it? In Barha, this one's a little bit more, very much more unsettling. Barha, which is in the northern part of India, which is a rural area. An article, I think it was from 2016, shows that human sacrifice is still done there on a regular basis. To the god of the Ganges River, spirits of the forest, mainly child sacrifice is still happening. Say, oh, that's crazy. Here's one from 2012. Name the first picture, please, for Joni. You can see, this is not photoshopped. Back in 2012, this kid became a YouTube sensation, became the smoking baby of Indonesia. And you think that that's disturbing, but he's the only one. It is estimated in 2012 that 300,000 children, toddlers, 300,000 in Indonesia alone were on a tobacco therapy. This kid chain smoked over 40 cigarettes a day at the age of 2 when this picture was taken. Fortunately, this kid is not smoking anymore, and he's grown up, and here we are 8 years later. Next picture. What is that? Barber pole. Who knows what those colors represent? The red is blood. The white is the bandage. And blue, depending on who you ask, is one of two things. The blue is for the color of the vein before you cut it, or it's patriotic, and so we added blue as America gained its independence. You would go to a barber shop for a haircut or a mustache trim, and if you had anything from a sore throat to cancer, he would cut a vein open, and he would bleed you. Weird things. The weird things. Last one. What weird things are we believing today? What weird things are we believing? Can I really look at another person and say that they're less human because of skin color? The amount of hair that they may have or don't have? What part of the world or country that they're from? What do people believe? I ask you these things because why we believe what we believe. We had a conversation with a young man on Thursday at the hot dog outreach. He claimed to be a Muslim, but also believed that Jesus was the Messiah. Now he was clearly a young person who was confused and not well educated in this area. But he didn't know why we believed that. Talked to some of the kids at the same night, and they believed in evolution. And you ask them why. And their very pragmatic answer was, because my teachers taught me that. Makes sense. These are supposed to be people that I'm supposed to be able to trust. So why do we believe what we believe? Put that into my faith. God is supposed to make things better. If I follow Jesus, then everything's going to be pleasant. If I follow Jesus, He'll make everything right this side of eternity. Now, I hope that is the case. And we are called to live out our faith. And when the righteous live that way, there isn't, I don't want to call it karma by any means, but you do reap what you sow. And if you sow goodness and purity and holiness and righteousness, then that's what's going to come back. And we're not to be wicked, we're not to be chasing after the things of this world. But why do I believe that? Look at Paul's faith here. Look at what he's been through. 2 Corinthians 11 in your bulletin. This is what he's been through for the faith. 5 times I received at the hands of the Jews the 40 lashes less one. All right, they believed that 40 lashes would kill a person, so they'd take one away, so they'd give you 39. Many, many people died just after a few strikes, long before you get to 39. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. A night and a day I was adrift at sea. Not including this whole thing. On frequent journeys, in dangers from rivers, dangers from robbers, danger from my own people, danger from Gentiles, danger in the city, danger in the wilderness, danger at sea, danger from false brothers. Everywhere he turned, there was danger. But, as God told Paul in the story, and so that is the truth that we hold on to. 2 Peter 2:9. Then the Lord knows how to rescue the godly from trials and to keep the unrighteous under punishment until the day of judgment. So, brothers and sisters, whatever we're going through, be it COVID, be it through riots, be it through crazy beliefs, through a difficult, unbelievably painful thing that you're going through, this is who we turn to. And this is a theme that God has given. Psalm 34:4, Old Testament. I sought the Lord, and He answered me, and He delivered me from all of my fears. Doesn't mean He took him out of all these situations, all these problems, not going to ever go through things. But when we seek the Lord, He will deliver us as only He can. And so if I'm going to go through trial, I'm going to go through persecution, I'm going to go through difficulty, I don't go it alone. And I will see this side, but I'll certainly see on the next side how God is using that. You're telling me that Paul wasn't going through all of these trials one after another, thinking part of him saying, this would be the last one. This would be the last one. This would be the last one. God, how many more are there going to be? Just take me home. And yet, now we read in the story how God was using it. He uses them going through the shipwreck, crawling up on the shore, the snake jumping out and biting. And that's how they use it. Because verse 2 says, the native people showed unusual kindness. So God wanted to bring Paul to these people because God had already prepared their hearts and minds to some point. We don't know. That's outside of our purview. But there was unusual kindness. And unusual kindness. God will just, that appointment will just happen. That person will just show up. That situation will just resolve itself. Kindled a fire and welcomed us all. It began to rain, it was cold. Paul gathered a bundle of sticks, put them on a fire. A viper came out because of the heat fastened on his hand. When the native people saw the creature hanging on his hand, they said to one another, no doubt this man is a murderer. Though he has escaped the sea, justice has not allowed him to live. He, however, shook off the creature into the fire and suffered no harm. They were waiting for him to swell up or suddenly fall down dead. But when they had waited a long time and saw no misfortune come to him, they changed their minds and said he was a god. Talk about doing a 180. Hey, we're going to help these guys that were just shipwrecked. Hey guys, come on over, let's have a fire. Oh, you go grab some sticks over there, Paul. Oh, got bit by a snake. Whoa, murderer. I'm going to stand over here. Hey, everybody, come and look. He's going to die. Let's watch. He doesn't die. No problem. All of a sudden, they start to turn and think, maybe God's at work here. Not the right God. Their weird beliefs pop up, right? This guy must be a God. How can you go from one moment to another, call one guy a murderer, and then the next moment say he's God? That's a weird belief. But notice, we don't know what kind of conversations are happening there. We don't know if Paul stood up and started preaching. But he pragmatically and he practically lived out his faith. This wasn't the first time this happened. So if you turn back to Acts 14, verse 8. Same thing happened. So when you and I are going, we talk about the difference between a trial, I think when someone is persecuting us, or something like demonic is coming against you, okay? You don't understand that? We've got to distinguish those things and you deal with them differently. But when trials happen, God is going to use that in ways that you and I begin to imagine. So the same thing happened to Paul and Barnabas. The exact same thing. They were going through something. Here it is, verse 8. I'll read it quickly. You can read it on your own later to catch up on it. Now at Lystra there was a man sitting who could not use his feet. He was crippled from birth and had never walked. He listened to Paul speaking, and Paul, looking intently at him and seeing they had faith to be made well, said in a loud voice, "Stand upright on your feet." They sprang up and began walking. When the crowd saw what Paul had done, they lifted up their voices, saying in Lycaonian, "The gods have come down to us in the likeness of men." Barnabas they called Zeus, and Paul Hermes, because he was the chief speaker. And the priest of Zeus, whose temple was at the entrance to the city, brought oxen and garlands to the gates and wanted to offer sacrifices with the crowds. But when the apostles Barnabas and Paul heard of it, they tore their garments and rushed out into the crowd, crying out, "Men, why are you doing these things? We are also men of like nature with you, and we bring you good news, that you should turn from these vain things to a living God, who made the heaven and the earth and the sea and all that is in them." I don't know. I don't know why this man was crippled from such a young age. He was going through a trial. But Paul made eye contact with him that day, and that man's faith, through the power of the Holy Spirit, through Paul, now a miracle happens. And now the people of Lystra are now open to the gospel. They're not saying, "Oh, tell me more about this Jesus." They went right to their gods, their false, weird beliefs. And yet, what do Paul and Barnabas do? They use that trial that man went through, the chaos of the situation. They use it as you want to be spiritual people? Let me tell you about the one true God. And that was the focus. And so when God is doing something, you and I don't fully understand it. We can't fully grasp it because I'm living my day-to-day life. I'm living my mundane life. Many times what we're doing is we're looking for some big spiritual conversation. Oh, Lord, help me to witness to this person. And then hopefully God will open that door. But maybe it's a smaller act. And now you're going through something and that person's watching you. Not to creep you out in a creepy out way, but it's just you're going through something, and God's going to use that trial to show this other person what true faith is. That's what you and I are called to do, to live it out. Hebrews 2:14-15. Since therefore the children share in flesh and blood, he himself likewise partook of the same things, that through death he might destroy the one who has the power of death, that is, the devil. All right, so when Jesus came, he went through trials. Why? To destroy the things of the devil. You and I are going to go through similar things. We're not here to destroy the devil. Jesus does that. And deliver all those who through fear of death were subject to lifelong slavery. Brothers and sisters, you and I are called free. We are free in Christ. And so I need to live like that. You need to live like that. Paul needed and Barnabas needed to live like that because the world is in bondage to the devil. It's our job. It's our calling. It's our mandate to endure, trusting that God goes with us, that he will use it in ways that we can even begin to imagine. Verse 7. Now in the neighborhood of that place were lands belonging to the chief man of the island, named Publius, who received us and entertained us hospitably for 3 days. It happened that the father of Publius lay sick with fever and dysentery. And Paul visited him and prayed, and putting his hands on him, healed him. When this had taken place, the rest of the people on the island who had diseases also came and were cured. They also honored us greatly, and when we were about to sail, they put on board whatever we needed. You can see the situation. Publius, his father, is sick. And the people of Malta hear about this sickness. Maybe he had a prolonged illness and everybody kind of knew about it. But guess what happens when you see a guy get bit by a viper and nothing happens? I think you run over to Publius and say, hey, Publius, maybe you want to talk to these guys. All this stuff was going on, but he did not die. Unusual kindness, the trial of the sea, the smashing against the island, taken to the island. And I don't know what kind of person Paul was in the sense of how much he just knew that every time God was walking with him, because he went through so much pain and suffering and difficulty, and yet every place he goes, you see, yes, we go through a storm, but we got here safe. We got to the island, they show us unusual kindness. I get bit by a snake, but nothing bad happens. They think I'm a god. Now I get to proclaim the one true God. There's people who are sick here. Publius' his father. By the power of the Holy Spirit, he is healed. And the rest, and that's what it says. The rest of the people on the island who had diseases also came and were cured. You're telling me the trials and the pain and the difficulty that Paul went through was not worth seeing people cured? Proclaiming the kingdom of God? This is all going on while Paul is still on a journey to Rome. He's going before a very crooked Caesar. But yet, why? He's walking in faith. And walking in faith and walking in faith. Galatians 6, 7 and 8. Hosea is quoting Hosea, the one right above it. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, that he will also reap. The one who sows to his own flesh will from the flesh reap corruption. But to the one who sows to the Spirit will from the Spirit reap eternal life. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you and praise you for today. Thank you for gathering us. Our brothers and sisters who are not with us, we ask you to watch over them. Keep them safe. Our culture and our world is always going through something. Yes, it's a very difficult and challenging and trying time. We pray, Lord, that your Holy Spirit will be upon the church. The true church will stand up, no matter what it has to endure, it will stand and shine the light of Jesus. We're called to go through storms, we go through storms. We're called to go through the long, difficult nights, then we're called to go through we're called to get bit by snakes, to go to what we call the heathens or the pagans, go back to our homes, our neighborhoods, whatever it is. Let us trust that you go with us. Thank you for the many stories of the Scriptures, of how you've worked throughout time, in different places, in different times, and sometimes in very different ways. And you are the same yesterday, today, and forever, and so we have to trust you in all things. We don't understand them, understand all things, but we trust you in all things. Before anything, we need to write our hearts and minds to come to your table, to confess our sins to a mighty and holy God. But it all starts with a relationship. The God of all creation sent his Son into this world to save the souls of men and women who all need saving. Let's start there. May your power flow from you. Prepare our hearts and minds to come to your table. Savior was betrayed, took the bread, broke it, gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take and eat, my body broken for you. Do this in remembrance of me." After the meal, he took the cup, blessed it, gave it to his followers, saying, "Take and drink. This is my blood shed for you and all humanity for the forgiveness of sins. Do this in remembrance of me." Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. All who claim the Lord Jesus Christ as their personal Lord and Savior are welcome to come to this table. We're going to ask that you go around the back and come towards the front. Please observe social distancing. I will hand you the wafer, and Diane will have the tray with the wine to take, and then you can throw the cup right in the garbage that way. All are welcome at this time.
Please join me for the prayers of the church. Almighty Heavenly Father, we thank you and praise you that you have called Virginia home. Lord, we don't understand why she went through and endured so many trials and difficulties, and yet she is rejoicing in heaven. No doubt you have used her and Grace, your family, in many, many ways. And even though we don't know all of them, we thank you, we trust you in all things. And as they say goodbye or see you later, Lord, I know it's hard to always do that. And yet the family has such peace, has such joy, such happiness. Thank you for that, Lord. So let them know that they have a family here that loves them. Praise to Immanuel, and the kingdom of God is rejoicing today. We celebrate with them, be with Bob and the entire family today. And just, Lord, just ask your mighty hands to be upon them and to comfort them as only we can. We continue to pray for our outreach events, Lord, to the youth on Wednesday nights, to the hot dog outreaches on Thursdays. Lord, we know that you're doing things in their hearts and minds. You're doing things in this church. You're using us. So help us to be faithful in all that we're called to do. Trust you with the results, not worry about those things, but trust you and be faithful in all things. So may your hand be upon it, lead us and guide us, and help us to hear whatever it is that you have for us at this time and this place. Continue to watch over those who have cancer, for Terrell, Daisy, Sandra, any others that are in our hearts and minds. We give them to you. Continue to walk with them each and every day through these difficulties, through these trials. Lord, let them walk with you and trust you in every single step of the way. And they look back and they'll see the footsteps of their journey, that they'll see the God of all creation with them and guide them every step of the way. For ongoing health issues, Carl, Ted, Johanna, Dave, David, Jacob, Sue, Matt, Max, any others that are on our hearts and minds. We give you them. You know these circumstances. You love them with perfect love. Use it. Use this. Use the difficulties to draw them closer unto you. Lay your healing hands upon them and heal them of these ailments and difficulties. And as we go, let us go like a Paul, like a Barnabas, just walking in faith, knowing that the God of all creation goes with us. And we will reap what we sow. And yes, you have forgiven us. You have welcomed us as enemies of God to now become children of God. And so through your body and blood, we are called to go out and to proclaim, in whatever form that may come, we are called to proclaim your kingdom. Let us do that. Let us start right here, from the top of our heads to the bottom of our feet. We have been washed clean. The old has passed away. Behold in you, because of what you, our Savior, did on the cross for us. Yes, children of